The man in the freezer aisle. I was 22 when my roommate Matt and I decided to drive across 3 states to pick up a cheap used motorcycle. The route was long, mostly 2-lane highway, the kind where the radio turns to static and the trees start to feel like a wall. We left after work and planned to crash in the car when we got tired. Bad plan. Around 2 a.m. we pulled into a tiny town with one of those independent gas stations, the kind with a single flickering light and a convenience store attached. A bell dinged when I pushed the door open. The store was freezing cold like a walk-in fridge. I remember the hum of the coolers and the smell of old coffee. There wasn't a cashier in sight. "Hello?" I called. Nothing. I grabbed a water, a bag of chips, and walked toward the counter. The security monitor behind the register showed 4 black and white camera feeds: entrance, aisles, coffee area, and the back door. The back door camera was just white static like snow. Another ding. Matt came in, rubbing his hands. "Man, it's cold in here." We waited a minute. "Maybe the cashier's in the back," I said. I was about to lean over the counter and call when the static on the back door camera cleared for a second. A shape stood there. A tall man, like a silhouette cut out of the picture, head tilted down as if he was standing on the other side of the glass. Then static again. "Did you see that?" I asked. Matt hadn't. He wandered toward the candy aisle, picking up random stuff to stay awake. I tried the tiny bell on the counter. No one came. On impulse, I stepped behind the counter and called into the back. "Hey, sorry, just need to pay." The smell hit me right away. Meat, sweet and metallic, like a butcher shop left open too long. The back room was colder than the store. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. There was a door marked freezer, and there were footprints on the concrete. Dark melted wetness that froze at the edges. Bare footprints, long toes. "Dude," Matt said from behind me, "don't go back there. We'll just leave cash." We set a 10 on the counter and turned to go. The ding over the door sounded again, but we hadn't moved. My stomach dropped. We looked at each other and then back at the aisle. A man stood at the end of it, half hidden behind a rack of jerky. He wore an old beige parka and no shoes. Face pale, lips a little blue. He didn't blink. He just watched us like people on the other side of glass. I tried to say hey or sorry or anything, but the words didn't come out. Matt nudged me with his elbow. "Walk," he whispered. We walked, slow, steady, toward the door. The man mirrored us down the parallel aisle, perfectly matched. The bell above the door was right there. My hand reached out. The man reached the end of his aisle and stepped into view like an animal leaving brush. Tall, thin, eyes watery and red, maybe frostbitten. "Everything okay?" I forced out. He smiled, small and wrong, and then he finally spoke. His voice sounded like wind blowing over a bottle. "You left your change," he said. I didn't look. I pushed the door. We stumbled into the night, breath smoking in the air. We got to the car so fast my vision tunneled. Matt fumbled the key, swore, started the engine. I glanced back through the glass storefront. The man wasn't at the door anymore. He was behind the counter where we'd stood. He was staring at the security monitor. On the screen, the back door camera was no longer static. It showed the freezer room. The freezer door open. Inside, rows of hanging meat and white frost. Something like a hand reaching up from behind a half-frozen side of beef. We peeled out of there. Tires squealing on gravel, engine roaring down the empty road. About 10 miles later, with my heart finally settling, I noticed the $10 bill I'd left on the counter sitting in my lap. I hadn't grabbed it. Neither had Matt. We didn't stop again until sunrise at a busy truck stop. While fueling up, I checked our backseat through the glass. No parka, no footprints, nothing. But for days afterward, a smell lingered in the car when the AC kicked on. Faint and metallic, like cold meat thawing in the sun. And a week later, when I checked my bank statements, there was a $10 charge from a gas station I didn't recognize. The address was a town we never even drove through. The cry at exit 119I was driving home alone after visiting my sister. It was about 1:30 a.m., and my eyelids were doing that heavy flutter thing. I decided to stop at the next rest area, exit 119, get some fresh air, maybe a soda. The parking lot was mostly empty. 1 semi, 2 sedans. The building was lit but felt abandoned, the way places do in the middle of the night. As I got out, I heard it. A baby crying. Not a whimper, full-on breathy sobs. It was coming from the small patch of woods behind the picnic tables. I froze, hand on my door. The crying stopped. then started again a little to the left. I told myself it was a fox. People always say foxes can sound like babies, but your brain doesn't accept that when it sounds human. I went inside the restroom building to splash water on my face. Lights flickered. A hand dryer clicked on by itself, roaring for a second, then died. In the mirror, I looked sleep-drunk and pale. As I left, I heard the crying again, closer now, like someone walking with a baby, trying to soothe it. Shh, shh. The sound moved behind the vending machines. I stepped closer, phone in my hand with 911 ready. Hello, I called. Do you need help? It stopped. Then, from directly behind the soda machine, Mommy? Every hair on my arm stood up. Where are your parents? I asked, voice shaking. No answer. I peered down behind the machine. Just dust, a few dropped coins, and a crumpled receipt. Then the crying started again, but this time it was coming from the far end of the parking lot, near my car. I turned and saw a woman standing by my rear bumper. She was facing away, holding something bundled to her chest. She swayed, like rocking. I walked toward her slowly. Ma'am, do you? She turned her head just enough that I could see the profile. Mouth too wide, stretched into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The bundle in her arms shifted. The crying cut off like a radio. My brain begged me to back away. I didn't listen. Is your baby okay? I asked. My voice sounded small. She didn't answer. She lifted the bundle toward me. The blanket slipped and I saw plastic, a doll's face, scratched eyes, a cracked mouth. It wasn't a baby. The sound started again, crying, but it came from the woman's throat like a recording playing through a broken speaker. Please, she said. Not a question. A demand, flat and wrong. Please take her. I took 2 steps back without meaning to. She stepped forward, pushing the bundle toward me. I reached for my door handle. That's when she dropped the doll. It hit the pavement soundlessly. Her head snapped to look at it, mouth closing to a firm line. Then she looked at me and smiled again, too wide. Behind me, the restroom door opened on its own and a cold draft ran over my back. The crying sound echoed from inside the building, now coming from every wall. Please, she said again, but her mouth didn't move this time. I got in the car, slammed the lock, and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing there, hands empty, as if she'd never held anything at all. As I backed up, the crying faded into the sound of my tires on gravel. When I pulled onto the highway, the noise vanished like I'd driven out of a tunnel. I didn't stop again that night. 2 days later, I found a crumpled receipt on my passenger floor, same logo as the rest stop vending machine. The timestamp was 1:32 a.m., the exact minute I was in the bathroom. The item listed was a single purchase, infant, 0 dozer. The detour officer, my friend Kayla, and I were on a night drive through the mountains, heading to a cabin we'd rented with 2 other friends. GPS cut out about an hour after sunset. We kept going by mile markers and gut feeling. Around a sharp bend, we saw a roadblock. 3 orange barrels, a sawhorse with a detour sign, and a police cruiser with its lights off but hazard flashers blinking. A trooper stepped into the beam of our headlights and raised his hand. He wore the hat, the dark uniform, everything official. Roads closed up ahead, he said, voice echoing off the trees. Take the detour. He pointed to a narrow gravel road. No streetlight, no houses. Is there a slide?
Kayla asked.
He tilted his head, not a nod exactly. Go on, he said. It's safe. I'll radio your plate so they know you're coming. It felt wrong, but the way he said it sounded like a command. We turned onto the gravel road. The cruiser in the mirror faded behind the bend. The trees pressed in. After 10 minutes of rattling over stones, we came to a fork. No signs. Left looked steeper, right looked like it dipped into a ravine. Left? I said. Before Kayla could answer, headlights appeared behind us. Bright, high. A vehicle pulled up close like it wanted to push us. I rolled down my window and waved. We're lost! The headlights flicked on and off like impatience. Kayla turned left. The vehicle followed tight. Too tight. I glanced in the side mirror. The shape wasn't a cruiser. It was a pickup. Tall grille. No front plate. Maybe they're locals, Kayla said, trying to believe it. The road got steeper and narrower, carved into the side of the mountain. On the right, a drop where our headlights couldn't find the bottom. The truck behind us beeped its horn. A single long blast. I stuck my hand out and signaled go around. It accelerated and pulled beside us, close enough that I saw the driver's window. The glass was black. Not tinted, black. Like paint. No reflection. The truck hung beside us too long, matched our speed, then eased back behind. Up ahead, the road ended at a chain stretched between two posts. A metal sign hung crooked. Private no-through road. We stopped. The truck stopped 15 feet behind us. No one got out. No engine sound. Just that tense silence you only hear in the woods at night, when even the bugs seem to hold their breath. Kayla whispered. Reverse. The truck's headlights turned off. Pitch dark swallowed the car except for our own beams. I put my palm on the glass. It was vibrating, but I couldn't hear an engine. Then, footsteps on gravel. Slow, heavy. Coming from in front of us, not behind. A flashlight beam cut across our windshield from the left. A uniform stepped into view. Same hat, same trooper. He held a ticket pad and shined the light into my eyes. You missed the turn, he said, voice flat. Happens. How did you? I started. He raised the light higher so I couldn't see his face. Turn around, he said. I'll guide you back. I nodded like a robot. Kayla shifted into reverse. In the rear view, the truck's lights were still off, but we could see its shape. Taller than before somehow. Like it had grown. We inched back. The trooper stood to the side, light on us. As we passed, the beam slid over our dashboard, our hands, our terrified faces. And then for a split second, it lit up his other hand, the one not holding the light. Long fingers. Too many joints. Gray skin stretched tight, Kayla whispered, go. We cleared the posts and turned around. The truck didn't move. The trooper didn't either. He only watched. We drove fast, gravel spitting under the tires, backtracking the way we'd come. When we hit pavement again, I didn't breathe until we saw the real highway. 2 miles later, we passed a real roadblock. Sirens, bright lights, reflective vests. A trooper approached the window. You can't go up there, he said. Rockslide took out the switchbacks. You two coming from the other side? No, I said, voice shaking. We took a detour earlier. Officer told us. The trooper frowned. There's no detour on this road. And you shouldn't have seen any cruisers. Ours are all up by the slide. He took our plate and walked back to his car. While we waited, I looked down. On my jeans, where my knee had been pressed against the door, there was a smudge like a fingerprint. Long. Pale. When the trooper returned, he looked serious. Turn around and go back the way you came, he said. And lock your doors tonight, we did. Back at the cabin later, we checked the car. Kayla found something wedged under her seat. A strip of reflective tape like from a uniform. Stuck to it were 3 thin gray hairs. We didn't call anyone. We just threw it away and slept with the lights on. Mile marker 237. My boyfriend Evan and I were in a dumb fight. The kind you forget the reason for but remember the silence afterward. We drove in that silence down a desert highway. Nothing but stars and scrub and a ribbon of road going forever. Around 11 p.m. we passed mile marker 237. I noticed because the 7 had a bullet hole through it. A minute later we passed another sign. Mile marker 237, that made no sense. Did we? I started. Evan shrugged. They double up sometimes, do they? I don't know. We kept going. 5 minutes later, 237 again. Same bullet hole. Okay, what is this? I said, forcing a laugh. Evan slowed down. Maybe the GPS is looping. He tapped his phone. No service. We started watching the odometer. It ticked up exactly 1 mile, and there was 237 again, like the road was replaying the same piece of itself. The air felt thicker, the night darker. I rolled down my window to see if there was some trick with the wind or the sound. That's when I heard it running, footsteps pounding somewhere out in the desert matching our car's speed. Too fast to be human. You don't really hear footsteps in a place like that, just the rhythm. But this was distinct. Crunch, crunch, crunch. I cranked the window back up. Evan pretended not to hear it. I could see his jaw clenching. We're stopping, he said finally, voice too loud. He pulled onto the shoulder. We killed the engine, sat in silence. The stars burned so bright they looked fake. Nothing moved. No wind, no insects. Just our breathing, then tap. On my window, light like a fingernail, I jumped. Evan grabbed my arm. Probably a bug. Tap, tap. 2 more, I turned my head slowly. A face leaned in close to the glass. My face, it was me. Same hair, same piercings. But my eyes were wrong. Too dark, like the pupils had swallowed the color. The other me smiled. It didn't fog the glass when it breathed. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do anything. Evan whispered, "Drive." The other me turned its head toward him like it heard the word through the window, and its mouth opened too wide. Then it tapped the glass again like asking to be let in. I don't remember shifting gears. I only remember the tires screaming and the other me's face sliding down the glass as we shot forward. The road snapped back under the headlights. We blew past mile marker 237, and then 238 finally appeared like a door we'd been pounding on that finally opened. We didn't talk for a long time. When we did, it was small, stupid things. Anything to fill the air. The fight didn't matter anymore. The next morning, we stopped at a diner in the next town. My hand still shook when I picked up my coffee. The waitress noticed. "You okay, honey?" she asked. I nodded, laughed it off. She leaned closer. "You come through the West Road?" We said yes. Her smile faded. "People see things by 237, she said. "Happens every few years. Sheriff stops putting up new signs because they go missing." "Missing?" I asked. She nodded toward the window where the parking lot glared in the sun. "Folks think it's a prank, but when we find them, sometimes the signs are bent in the middle like somebody carried them a long way, and sometimes there are fingerprints in the dust on the metal. We left fast after that." In the car, Evan reached into the door pocket for his sunglasses. He froze, pulled his hand back slowly. Stuck to the inside of the pocket was a single pressed fingerprint in desert dust. It was mine, whorl pattern and all, twice as long as it should have been. The extra key a year ago. My cousin Tristan and I did a cross-country move. We were broke, so we slept in the car at campgrounds and truck stops. On the fourth night, we pulled into a free campsite near an old dam. No reception. A sign at the entrance had that official font and bullet holes. We laughed, set up in the back of the SUV and cracked the windows just enough to breathe. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to whispering. Not words, just that sibilant hiss of two people talking under their breath. I froze. The whispers came from the driver's side window, then slid along the car like oily smoke, ending near the hatch where our feet were. Tristan whispered, "Hear that?" I nodded, too scared to answer. He reached slowly into his backpack and pulled out the key fob. He clicked lock. The car gave a soft chirp. The whispering stopped. Then from outside, a second chirp. Another lock sound. It came from the darkness about 10 feet away. Tristan and I stared at each other. He clicked unlock. Our car unlocked. Out in the dark, a second unlock chirped back. I felt the air leave my chest. "Someone's got a fob," Tristan mouthed. "Same model." He counted down with his fingers. 3, 2, 1, and we threw the hatch open and scrambled into the front. The campsite around us looked empty. The bathroom was a cement box 20 yards away. The dam stood beyond the trees, a concrete curve pale in the moonlight. Our breath fogged in the cool air. We decided to leave. Tristan put the key in the ignition and turned it. The engine cranked once, twice, then died. He tried again. Nothing. From the trees came the soft jingle of keys. Not ours. I grabbed the flashlight and scanned the tree line. For a second I caught a reflection. 2 little silver glints like eyes. Then the beam hit something hanging from a low branch. A lanyard with a key attached. Tristan opened his door to grab it. I hissed for him to stop, but he went anyway, fast and scared like ripping off a bandage. He jumped, grabbed the lanyard, and yanked it free. When he landed, the ground made a noise like dry leaves being crushed. Except there were no leaves. Just gravel and dust. Tristan froze. The jingle of keys sounded again, closer now to my right. I swung the beam, but the light flattened everything into shadows and glare. "Get in," I whispered. He did. We both sat there, gripping our seats, staring at the dark. The new key, metal heavy, lay in Tristan's palm. It had our exact car brand logo. The teeth looked hand-filed. He tried our ignition again. The engine turned over strong, like nothing had ever been wrong. I told him to drive. He put it in gear. We rolled forward. That's when something thumped against the rear glass, hard enough that I saw the outline of a handprint spread over the window from the inside. We didn't stop until sunlight. Hours later, at a gas station, I finally looked at the extra key. Small letters were scratched into the metal. Not stamped, scraped in with a nail or a knife. 3 words. Try. Any Dory laughed because what else can you do? Then I glanced through the station glass and saw a guy at the coffee station. Just a regular guy, flannel shirt, sleepy face. He reached into his pocket and took out a key that looked exactly like ours. He didn't use it. He just held it, rubbing the teeth with his thumb, smiling to himself like he'd remembered something funny. We threw the extra key into a dumpster on our way out of town. But a week later, my apartment's front door lock started sticking. The super said the cylinder was worn strangely, like somebody's been testing it with a bunch of keys. I moved 3 months after that. I still bring a door wedge when I travel, and sometimes, late at night, I hear a single soft car chirp somewhere down on the street. Once, twice, and then silence like someone tried every door and moved on.